This developing right now. The CFO of General Motors says that the company will not make its June 1st debt payment of $1 billion. GM might seek court protection to dramatically lower its outstanding debt. Let's bring in former House Majority Leader and Texas Republican Congressman Dick Armey. He currently serves as chairman of freedomworks.org. Thanks so much for joining us,
Thank you,
Mr. Leader. First of all, let me ask you about the implications of this General Motors' inability to make its debt payment. Are we moving closer to what Mr. Henderson's, the new CEO there, has acknowledged might have to be a structured bankruptcy?
Well, yes, I think it's inevitable. In fact, I've been arguing for some time. Sooner or later, they're going to have to settle this, sort it out through the courts. People are going to have to get what settlements they can. And if it's possible for GM, after it straightens out the chronic overproduction, oversupply problems that it's had, maybe to come back with fewer models, lower levels of production, and regain a position in the market, that would be, of course, exciting and pleasing for all of us, but that can only happen now after they go through a dramatic and fairly painful recovery from their excesses of the past.
Now, the House Financial Services Committee today is trying to protect credit card holders from hungry creditors. Hearings are underway on the Hill concerning the possible cardholders' Bill of Rights. If approved, do you think that that is a good step, or is that the wrong move to make right now when credit is squeezed so badly?
Well, first of all, a cardholder has the right to get the card, which they over-exercise. We have in too many households too many cards, too badly and unwisely used. They also have the right to be responsible in the way they use their cards. People who have exercised these rights of prudence and responsible use of credit don't have a problem. One of the problems I have with Congress these days is they try to put an insulation between people who are in the habit of bad business or financial practices and the consequences of those practices. Again, once again, as it is with General Motors, should it also end up having to be for an irresponsible use of credit cards, you're going to have to pay the piper and come to terms with the matter and learn not to use credit in that way.
Now, there's been a disagreement which is beginning to moderate a bit between the White House and Congress as to whether there should be an investigation into what happened with these interrogation techniques. We see in the Senate Armed Services Committee investigation, which has now been declassified, that there's some value in looking at these things. The president was reluctant. He didn't want a witch hunt. He didn't want to politicize the problem. Do you think it's appropriate for Congress or a bipartisan commission to start looking into these alleged abuses?
Well, we have, in fact, intelligence committees. We have a good institutional apparatus in place. They ought to do their job and to do it thoroughly. But I think there also ought to be some awareness. This nation was in a terrible state of fright and panic and concern immediately after 9/11. These events happened largely in the aftermath of that as we tried to answer the very frightening question, what will they do next? It seems to me the president could play the greater part of statesmanship if he were to set down clear standards of what is acceptable and not acceptable at this time and say we're going to close the chapter on that part. That obviously spares the nation a great deal of painful retrospection and at the same time spares him the appearance of looking like a vindictive person going back just to make political hay out of the other party's presidency. I think the president, if he acts too retroactively on this, could come off looking as a man that is more political hack than statesman.
All right, Dick Armey, thank you very much, former Majority Leader. And here with perhaps a different point of view.